Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Section 15 पे आ जाइए अभी. Fact bearing on question whether act was accidental or intentional. Incidental evidence relating to accidental act or intentional act. When there is a question whether an act was accidental or intentional, or done with a particular knowledge or intention, the fact that such such act form part of the series of similar occurrences in each of which the person doing that was concerned is relevant. So this section will tell you this. You can understand from the illustration whether the commission of the crime or the act was done accidentally or intentionally, with mischievous intention, or it was through oversight, without knowing any intention. Illustration will give you. Number one, A is accused of burning down his house in order to obtain money for which it is insured. So here, whether the act of burning down the house is accidental or the deliberate act to claim dishonestly money from the insurance company. The fact that A lived in several houses successively, each of which he insured, in each of which a fire occurred, and after each of which fire, A received money from different insurance offices, are relevant, tending to show the fire was not accidental. So it is a deliberate sabotageous act on the part of the complainant or the accused person, whoever is there. His intentions are not clean. His knowledge, he possesses ill will. His ulterior motives with a view to siphon off, take out money from the insurance companies. So there is evidence before the court of law that he stayed in the premises. He had a house in Colaba, for example. Last year, 5 years, he stayed there as a tenant. He burnt it and he got the money from Oriental Insurance. Then there's evidence to show that he bought a house in Andheri, and similarly fire took place and they took money from the life insurance corporation. Then also there's evidence to show that here in Bandra he stayed. Again similarly several examples with regard to burning of the houses, where successively he has been claiming. Evidence can be led to show that the burning of the burning of the house was not an accidental act. It was a sabotage. It was deliberately done by the accused person with a view to claim money. His intentions are not honorable, not honest, not bona fide, and dishonest rather. Dishonesty is looming large on the horizon, and he should not be permitted to withdraw any money. No money can be given to him. And if the offense is committed by him under the Indian Penal Code, he should be prosecuted. So that evidence can be laid here. B. A is employed to receive money from the debtors of A. It is A's duty to make entries in books showing the amount received by him. He makes an entry showing that on a particular occasion he received less than really did he receive. The question is whether this is false entry, was accidental or intentional. The fact that the other entries made by A in the same book are false, and false entries in the case of in the case of the favor of A are relevant. So, for example, you are a owner of a building where there are 100 tenants. You employed a Mehtaji or a rent collector to receive account. You are a businessman. You have no time to look after the managed property. So you left it to your rent collector, who makes entries with regard to amount rent which he has collected from the tenants. Rent, taxes, pagadis, whatever may. Now receiving pagadi is also legal under the provisions of the Maharashtra Rent Control Act. So in the process here, the gentleman, your rent collector, he has made certain entries which are happens to be false. Whether this is an accidentally false, he has shown less amount. for the last month, and he has shown another less amount. Why is he doing it? Whether it's a mistake on his part, it's a slip on his part, accidental. So evidence can be showed that he has been doing successively to prove that he has been misappropriating account, falsification of account. A charge can be put against him under the provisions of Section 471A of the Indian Penal Code, and you can claim in a civil suit the amount which has been misappropriated by him to show that the entries he had deliberately made false. In fact, I have evidence to show from the tenants and the license to show that they have paid the money. One of the tenants surrendered the premises A and he inducted B, which fact was not drawn to your attention. Several huge amount in a maybe property situated in South Mumbai, crores of rupees have come to him by way of pagri, which he has not shown in the books of account, which he has hoodwinked you. So you can claim that amount. So those entries, you can show that whatever entries he has been doing, he is managing these entries. These are not accidental slips. These are mischievously done. Okay? Such evidence can be led to prove that his conduct is not good. See, A is accused of fraudulently delivering to B counterfeit rupees. Again, counterfeit cases come here, 498 A, B, C, D. Question is whether delivery of the rupee was accidental. The fact that soon after the delivery, B delivered counterfeit point to C, D, B are relevant, showing delivery was not accidental. So you are depositing in the account your books, cash leke jate ho tum. Cashier finds that here some of the notes of 2000 are bogus. Then you are again repeating it next day, some other accountant. Then fisherwoman also find that you are given this. The vegetable chap, the baniya and the local baniya comes to know that you have been delivering this. So evidence can be led to show that here the amount, the bogus note, the counterfeit coin which you gave it to the banker is not an accidental one. It is a deliberate act. So the police has collected evidence to show that here you are in possession, in the habit of circulating counterfeit coins. That it is not an accidental act, it's a deliberate act. So your intentions are not clean here. Then the fact that soon after the delivery counterfeit coin, then over. Then this is, anybody want to ask any question in 15? Whether this is with regard to accidental or intentional. Evidence you are allowed to lead. Okay, this clear?
So how will you know whether it is accidental or intentional? It is, you'll have to prove it, no sir. Otherwise, there is.
Yes, this is only in trial. At the time of the trial, the prosecution will say that here, the police has collected evidence, statement of various people where in the locality staying are recorded. He has been buying from milkman, fisherwoman, from the baniya, from the hotel he is eating. Every day he is doing it for the last 2 years, 3 years. Nobody noticed it. Then they come to know ultimately, yes, some of the notes are counterfeit. The bank people have covered it here. So in a statement recorded by the police officer under 162, these persons are examined. So when the examination take place, their evidence is under 157 corroborated, isn't it? So corroboration take place. In the corroboration, all these notes which he has tendered, they come before the court of law. So the court will presume that the act is not accidentally he has given it. He has been doing it deliberately. So intentionally he is in possession of counterfeit coin. So he is committing the crime in possession of coin, which is an offence under section 489 C and B of the Indian Penal Code. It's a session triable case where you can be convicted for more than 10 years. Life imprisonment is there. Okay, that is how the evidence is led on that behalf. Then 16 देख लीजिए अभी. Existence of course of business when relevant. When there is a question whether a particular act was done, the existence of a course of business according to which naturally would have been done is relevant. Ordinary course of business बोलते ना आपने, whether the act is done in the ordinary course of business or not. Now see the illustration, come to know. The question is whether a particular letter was dispatched. So आपने, as a landlord, you will take up the plea that I have sent a registered AD letter terminating the tenancy of my tenant under Section 106 PP Act, or demanding arrears of rent or forfeiture under Section 15 of the Rent Control Act. The registered AD packet was sent from the CTO, General Post Office, GPO. You are having GPO ka receipts and the letter dispatch. If that is proved before the court, and defendants say that I never received it. Huh? So whether the letter was dispatched in the usual course of business is the question which may arise from the whether the letter was dispatched. So under the General Clauses Act, there is a presumption that the letter dispatched duly to the police station, to the post office, ought to have been received by the addressee. So a presumption arises. But the presumption can be rebutted by the defendant, placing on record, it appears I was not in Bombay at the time, my house is locked. The landlord has played a mischief. A fictitious person has been set up and took my signature, giving a false information to the post office as if he was me. That is how you can give the evidence. So you are allowed to lead evidence that it is not in the usual course of business. It's a mischief played by the landlord. It's a mischief is played. But you are able to prove before the court of law, you are discharging your evidence. Yes, I have sent the letter from the post office, the GPO, by speed post AD and acknowledgement. Letter mila hai, chale gaya hai. The defendant will say, mujhe nahi mila hai, I need not receive it. So the evidence that gentleman has to discharge. As regard the question that you are dispatched, your onus is over. The defendant should take care to examine the postman, post office, placing on record that the signature appearing in this is not my signature. You may examine the handwriting expert to prove on record. Then you share that I was not in Bombay. I was in that time out of India. I was in Dubai, America, London. कहीं भी था मैं पढ़ाई करने गया था. So you show the letters, you show your tickets. I came down to India when I am dispossessed. I came to know I have been dispossessed. The bailiff broke open the lock and took possession, of which I was not aware. The case is filed. The entire proceedings are fraudulent. The ex parte decree has been taken on a false representation. That is how. So at the moment the question is, the court is examining whether the court shall presume that you also learned under the provisions of section 186 के अंदर. Open your section 85.
Sir, I have a question.
हाँ बोलिए 86 कर लीजिए.
So regarding counterfeiting of notes, obviously, sir, big amounts like 2,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees, the court would take cognizance of that. But sir, what about 1 rupee and 2 rupees, which are, or say, supposing 10 rupees, which would be easier to count?
Any note. It's the notes also, coins also.
It doesn't matter, sir.
Yeah.
It's the same punishment for
yes,
the
punishment is it varies. The magistrate, the session judge will try to give minimum punishment.
Because so obviously 10 rupees and 5,000 rupees
yes, it all depends on the degree of the crime and the gravity of the punishment. Is the court will take into consideration what kind of sentence, first time offender, second time offender. It all depends. That is when we deal with the punishment part, we'll come to know. CRPC पे देखें आपने. Okay. That
waging war against the state, sir, by making money.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Proof of document का देखिए section 77 चेक करो आप. 78 पढ़िए. 78. Isn't it? These are all documents where the court draws presumption. So the court will draw the presumption here that the letter has been duly dispatched. Okay. Then the next question is the fact that it was ordinary course of business for all letters put in certain place to be carried to the post, and a particular letter was put in the place are relevant. So you may take up the plea that I am a government law college student. I put there's a red box. I put the letter in the box to the university, placing on record my migration certificate has arrived, and I submitted it. University बोलेगा आपका migration नहीं आया है. So you can lead evidence to the fact that here it was put in the box and your fellow student can be examined and the Churchgate post office can be examined to show that that letter was dispatched. So such evidence can be received to show that here the letter was duly dispatched and duly put in the box. That will discharge your onus. Whether it received or not received is subsequently burden upon them. Then B aa jaiye. The question is whether a particular letter reach A. The fact that it was posted in due course and was not written through the dead letter office are relevant. So a letter written, not written, come back is deemed to have been received by the other side. Huh? Now the Supreme Court says a letter refused also is a good service. A letter not written back, there's a general presumption under the General Clauses Act that letter which has been dispatched from the post office is deemed to have been duly received. Okay. Anybody has any question? We can also take, what is the time now, Ashish?
So it's 8:30.
8:30. Shall we take further? Admission le lo?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Admission pe aa jaiye, section 17. Because of course I had dealt with you admissions and commission. Ek cursory glance rahi. Section 17. Admission is a statement, oral or documentary, contained in any electronic form, which suggests inference as to any of the fact in issue, relevant fact, which is made by any of the person under circumstances thereafter mentioned. So admissions containing in pleading letters, even an oral statement in the court of law, these are all admissions which will be binding upon the parties. They cannot take it away. Now, 18, admission by a party to proceedings in his agent. A statement made by a lawyer in the court of law.
So for admission, so is that the reason that the opposing party denies everything?
Yeah, that is why you must deny the allegation. If you don't deny, under the CPC can order 6, order 7, order 8 mein likha gaya. Order 6 said that your denial must be specific. If that evasive denial amounts to admission. समझे ना आपने? Order 6 CPC पढ़ चुके हैं आपने, isn't it? मैं भूल गए थे. Please note that.
Yeah. So but sir, doesn't it make you look ridiculous if you are denying obvious things?
You must deny in a categorical manner. Somebody says that you have stolen my property, I deny नहीं बोलेगा नहीं. The allegations are totally incorrect. I am in possession of the property which is my own, which is my self-acquired property. समझे ना आप? Let us see. 18 पे आ जाइए. Statement made by a party to the proceeding, mean plaintiff or defendant, or by agent of such party, by lawyers, solicitors, advocate, counsels, made by them in the court, whom the court regard under the circumstances of the case as expressly or impliedly authorize him to make them are admissible. So a concession made by a counsel in the court of law that I am withdrawing the suit, my lord, that is settled out of court, is binding because the advocate is an officer of the court. Of course, now the Supreme Court is insisting the parties must remain present when the suit is withdrawn. In High Court and Supreme Court, the court normally believes the statement of the counsel. A standing counsel is made, a senior advocate is made. That is accepted here, but there are many controversies arose in many years. Such admissions are binding upon a party.
So didn't you get one of the advocates fired because he was behaving in an unethical manner by withdrawing the case?
Yes, because if the client has not given you specific instruction, any client tells you to withdraw the case, you tell him, please, you write me a letter or send me an email message or send me a WhatsApp message. You inform me specifically that you want me to withdraw. It's better to always make a written application under the signature of the client. Then by suitor in representative character. Suitor in order 1, Rule 8 CPC, पढ़े हैं. A representative capacity में suit is filed or defended. आपने पढ़े हैं. Statement made by parties to suit, suing or sued in a representative character are not admission unless they were made while a party making them held in that character. So if you are filing a suit on behalf of 10 people as a plaintiff or defending on behalf of 10 people, That is a representative capacity. You are fighting a suit under Order 1, Rule 8 CPC by taking the leave of the court. Two, unless all the other parties, the persons whom you are supporting, sign the statement, that statement is not admission. They must confirm it. A representative capacity suit, you are not allowed to withdraw without the permission of everybody. That is how the suit is here. Then statement made by number one, party interested in subject matter, person who have proprietary or pecuniary interest in the matter of the proceeding and which make the statement in the character of a person so interested, then person whom interest is derived, person from whom the parties to the suit are derived their interest, subject matter of the suit, are admissible if they made during the continuation of the interest of the person making the statement. So the heirs and legal representatives making the statement, their statement is binding. The transferee in interest makes a statement before the court of law in the pleading or affidavit, that is binding. Under Order 1, Rule 10, a transferee in interest come into play. Under Order 22, Rule 10A, the heirs come on record. So their statements are all binding upon each other in the court of law. Then 19, admission by person whose position must be proved as against the party to the suit. The statement made by person whose possession liability it is necessary to prove as against the other party to the suit or admission of such statement would be relevant as against such person in relation to such position liability in such broad or against them, and if they are made while person making them occupies such position or is subject to such liability. So that is why in the CPC you will find provisions such as Order 11, Order 12 CPC, interrogatories can the sawal jawab do. So the questions which you admit or not admit, they are admission. That is why court says that you are passing order of denial and admissions and non-denial. So you have seen in the CPC and the CRPC also that when your documents are filed, you give admissions and denial. So those admissions are given, but they are admissible. Now see the illustration. A undertakes to collect rent from B. B sues A for not collecting rent from due C to C. A denies rent was due from C to D. The statement by C that he owed B rent is admission and relevant fact against A if A denies so and so. So from this illustration here, the whatever statement C has made with regard to admission of rent is binding upon him. He cannot retract it here. So there's a doctrine of estoppel come into play under the provisions of section 115. I'll come to know that admissions are made here. Like a government of India, government of Maharashtra, any government agency telling people here that certain factory will be, if you open small scale industry, we will give you rebate for 10 years, 10, 15 years. So those are statements. These are recorded. Suppose Parliament committee records in the statements here, certain benefits should be given to poor people during recession, during pandemic. Those should be benefits. Those are statements, and they cannot withdraw. A suit filed by them to enforce are maintainable. They cannot retract it. They are known as promissory estoppel against them. These are statements which are binding upon them. 20 में आ जाइए. Admission by person expressly referred to by a party to suit. Statement made by a party to whom the party to the suit has expressly referred to information referred to matter in dispute or admission. So in the plain and written statement and in the affidavit, whatever you have mentioned, these are admission. Then the question whether a horse sold by A is sound. A says to B, go ahead and C knows about it. C statement is admission. So a statement made by A to A that C is affirming it. So the affirmation silence of C amounts to admission. That means the horse is in a sound condition. Then 21 में आ जाइए. Proof of admission against the person making them and by their behalf. Admissions are relevant and may be proved against the person who makes them or his representative in interest, but they cannot be proved by or on behalf of a person who makes them or by his representative in interest except in the following person. So number C, in what cases the admissions cannot be proved? C. Admission may be proved by on behalf of a person making it when it is of such a nature if a person making it were dead. would be relevant had it been third parties under 32. So you cannot, I cannot make a statement in my books of account that A owes me 100 rupees. That may not be admissible. If I owe you 100 rupees, that will go against me. Then admission may be proved on behalf of a person making it, while it consists of a statement of existence of a state of mind, body, irrelevant, or an issue made about the time when such state of mind existed, accompanied by the conduct entry. Improbable. So in the will, your grandfather makes a statement having regard to my old age, and I would like to distribute my property. I was in sound health. I am enjoying good health. So these are the statements he's making about his health. And the doctor examines and says that he's in good health. So these are statements which can be accepted by way of admission. Okay. Then admission may be proved by on behalf of a person making it if they are relevant otherwise than as an admission. Then illustration will throw light here. Question between A and B is whether a certain deed is or not forged. A affirms that it is genuine, B it is forged. A may prove the statement by B that the B may genuine. So the statements of A that it was a genuine, B can prove it and it was forged, vice versa. So I made a statement, it is a good deed, that is not an admission. So A can prove that here he has elsewhere admitted it is not a correct deed. Can be admitted. A, the captain of the ship, is tried for casting her away. And evidence is given to show that the ship was taken out of the proper course. A produces books kept by him in the ordinary course of his business, showing observation alleged to have been taken.
So last point I didn't understand. They can falsify each other's statements but not their own.
Suppose if I make a statement, I am a great man, that is not an admission. Huh? My friend is a great person is a good admission. You are praising somebody else. You acknowledge liability is a statement. You say that somebody owes me money is not a state admission. समझे ना आप? Is it correct or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Then a ship के बारे में आ जाइए. A captain of the ship is tried for casting her away. Evidence is given to show that the ship was taken out of the proper course. Then A produces a book kept by in the ordinary course of the business, showing observation alleged to have been taken by him from day to day, indicating that the ship was not taken out of the proper course. A may prove this statement because they would be admissible between third parties if they were dead under 32. So against the captain himself cannot use it. When he's dead under 32, they can be used it. Because this is the reason for casting away the ship is mentioned by the captain in the books which has been written by him. So during his lifetime, the statement which says that he has taken precaution may not be admissible because the statements are favoring him. The statement which favor you are not admission. Statement which go against you are admission. At the most, when you die, that they become proper statement, admission. Isn't it?
Yes, sir. So the one has to die to prove his,
yeah, बोलिए.
one has to die to prove his statements.
Yes, that means even the statement that I am a great man can be proved after death, but not during lifetime. Then see, A is accused of a crime committed by him at Calcutta. He produces a letter written by him of the date at Lahore on the day and bearing Lahore post mark of the day. The statement in the date of the letter is admissible because if A were dead, it would be admissible under 32. So during his lifetime, that admission cannot be counted, but only after his death under 32(2). 32(2) आ जाए खोल लीजिए आप अभी देख लेंगे. Section 32(2) is very much come here. Open it up, yeah. Section 32, subclause 2.
Open.
Yeah. Yes. Cases in which statement relevant by a person who is dead or cannot be found. Or is, number 2. Or is made in the course of a business. When the statement was made by such person in the ordinary course of business and in a particular, when it consists of an entry or memorandum made by him in the books kept by the ordinary course of business and in discharge of the professional duty or acknowledgement of return signed by him, receipt of money, good securities properly kin, document used in the commerce, written or signed by him, letters so and so signed by him. So they become admissible. If your grandfather had said it that year, I had given a loan to my best friend who is in America, a sum of rupees 10 lakh, which he has to pay me after he returns back. That man never returns. So your grandfather's statement during his lifetime are not admissible. But when he dies, they become admissible under 32(2), read with section 34. 34 में क्या है? They are retained in, their books of accounts are kept in the ordinary course of business. समझे ना आप? But if your grandfather said, I had taken a loan against from my friend of 1 lakh who is in London, which I intend to pay, that you are liable to pay. That's a statement of admission on the part of your grandfather.
So why are you liable to pay? He took the loan. So his estate will pay.
But you are the heir and legal representative, no? Under section 52 of the Indian Code of Civil Procedure, heirs are liable to pay the amount to the extent of the liability coming into the hand. Under the Hindu Succession Act, you are entitled to assets and also liabilities.
Only if he had the estate, no sir.
So if he has no estate, वो अलग बात है. अगर नहीं रहेगा तो गया, रहेगा तो you have to, suppose estate में आपको मिला पैसा, उसको 1 crore मिला है. Out of 1 crore, you pay that liability. Discharge it.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Under the CPC, you have learned, na? Section 52 पढ़े आपने?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Next पढ़िए आपने. D. A is accused of receiving stolen goods, knowing them to be stolen. He offers to prove that he refused to sell them below their value. A may prove this statement, though they are admission, because they are explanatory of the conduct influenced by facts in issue. यहाँ पे A will take up the plea. It's not a stolen property. अगर stolen होती तो why would I sell it for the same price? Maybe a gold ring worth about 1 lakh is in his possession. The prosecution will say that it is a stolen property. I sold it to B for the same price. It is my own property. Had it been stolen, I would have sold it for lesser property. Maybe for 50% of the value. So, that is an admission on his part, may be admissible. Then, A is accused of fraudulently having in his possession counterfeit coin in which he knew to be counterfeit. A offers to prove that he had asked a skillful person to examine the coin as he doubted whether it was a counterfeit or not. And the person did examine it and told him it was genuine. A may prove the fact for the reason stated last proceeding. So he has taken precaution asking an expert. So it is not a counterfeit coin, it's a genuine. I had a belief because I took the expert opinion. Like in the earlier case here, the A took up the plea that year, I sold it at a higher price. I sold it at a higher price. So by no stretch of imagination, it can be stolen. Had it been stolen, I would have sold it for lesser price. So that is explanatory of his conduct, influenced by fact in issue. So evidence can be led by you that you can say it is an admission I made. Yeah. Then 22. When oral admission as to content of document are relevant. Oral admission as to content of document are not relevant. See, oral admission, because this is in the line of section 91, 92 of the Evidence Act. You cannot prove the oral written agreements with oral evidence unless specifically certain exceptions are satisfied. So oral admissions as to content of a document are not relevant unless and until a party proposing to prove them show that he is entitled to give secondary evidence of the content of such document under the rules hereinafter contained, under the genuineness of a document produced in question. So he may take up the plea that the sale deed is a bogus document. आप क्या बोलेंगे? The sale deed
is a bogus document.
Is a sale deed is not actually, it was a mortgage deed. समझे ना? I had mortgaged my property to take a loan, But this man fraudulently wrote it as a sale deed. You are not supposed to go by the contrary contention raised in the agreement. So you cannot lead oral evidence to show that the agreement is bogus. Samjha na?
Okay.
But,
So the oral words will have no meaning, no?
but you can take up the plea that the agreement which I am proposing, namely mortgage deed, is lost and not traceable. I will prove that. I will lead my oral evidence to show that. Huh? Because under section 66 of the scheme, you have a right to lead oral evidence, secondary evidence that the oral is lost. After agreement of sale is original is lost or a mortgage deed is lost. It is in fact a mortgage. I had taken loan from him. I never sold the flat to him. But this man dishonestly wrote it. But he told me it is only for security. So the agreement is lodged, original is not in your possession, and he is refusing to produce the document which is in possession. Huh? As a result whereof, you can prove the admission.
But the dishonest man will show the document, no sir, because it will show a sale deed, so it is in his advantage to.
He will show the document, but I am talking of the plaintiff. Plaintiff doesn't have in his possession. The plaintiff, when the person a mortgage, he says that he will take up the plea, it's a mortgage. Huh?
Yes, sir.
He will take up the plea. It is in fact, I would like to lead evidence to show that it is not a sale, it's a mortgage. So in that event, you have no other choice but to lead oral evidence. So read section 91 when you can lead oral evidence. Section 91 kholiye. 91, 92 के अंदर, please remember this section very well. Evidence of the terms of a contract, grant or other distribution of property reduced in document. So you are not allowed to lead oral evidence here. Then see 92 कहता है exclusion of evidence of oral agreement. When the terms of the contract, grant or disposition of a matter required by law to be reduced in the form of document, like sale deed has to be in a written agreement. Rent deed has to be in a written agreement.
So,
I'm just wait for 2 minutes. Then see the will has to be a written document with 2 documents. Then have been proved according to the last section. No evidence of oral agreement statement shall be admitted. So the Registration Act tells you sale deed must be registered under section 17 of the Registration Act. If unregistered, it cannot be received in evidence only for collateral purposes. Then the parties are not allowed to lead oral evidence except in proviso 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5. A में क्या है? You may free that the document is invalid, bogus, existence of a separate oral agreement. Number 3, that a distinct consequent oral agreement, then usage customs are permitting. You see that? Section 13 and 48 can be invoked here. Any usage or custom by which incidental not explicitly permitted. So, a sections are exception. So, यहाँ पे you will be allowed to lead it here. समझे? Let me ask your question. You are asking anything.
sir, if the oral evidence is recorded, then it should be admissible, right?
Oral evidence, no problem. Suppose already there is a written agreement, you cannot lead evidence contrary to the written argument. Written agreement कोई produce किया तुमने, document speak for itself. समझे ना आप?
So if it's pertaining to the agreement, then the recording would be admissible.
Because normally section 91, 92 says that the agreement which is written agreement speak for itself, and you will not be allowed to dislodge the agreement if you have signed it. But if you take up the plea that the fraud was played in execution, you did not sign the document voluntarily. You did not receive proper consideration. Time is the essence of a contract not mentioned. Then you can lead oral evidence. Then you might take up the plea. The agreement was not actually a sale deed. It's a mortgage. It's a mortgage deed with a view to bind me. The agreement is not a tenancy agreement. It is in fact a leave and license agreement. Yes, you learn it when you come in practice. As a student, you will find it difficult. You may not find it difficult, but you have to read 3-4 times. But I am informing you that Section 90, 91 tells you when there is a written agreement, normally oral evidence is not allowed. But oral evidence is permitted to prove that the agreement is against the provisions of Section 23 of the Evidence Act, against public policy, against immorality. Huh? Consideration is not received. And it's a bogus agreement, sham colorable agreement. This is agreement is to induce, I was induced to sign it. I did not mean what I sent it. So only when you have well read your, when you come in the practice, CPC, CRPC, Evidence Act, when you're conducting trial, you will come to know all this. Of course, I'm giving you some information. You are getting the inkling of it because you are an intelligent student. In our days, I was not that intelligent like you all. You are asking good questions to me. You can understand.
What are you saying, sir? You're more intelligent than all of us put
because
together.
it took me time to understand, because come in the practice, slowly laga. Like fortunately, I am in a position to come and explain to you, you are grasping it very well. So that shows that your grasping power is good and material is being placed before you. In our days, unfortunately, the professors were not able to place the material before us.
Our teacher is good, sir.
Yeah, it is all
Thank you,
depends.
sir.
The teacher also must be well equipped. He should know the full material. It is not just you know one subject. You should know various subjects. It is not just that you have conducted one type of a matter. You must have conducted several trials, several matters, various avenues. इसीलिए मैं बोलता हूँ आपको, please don't specialize in one act. Don't specialize in one branch of law. Practice in all branches of law. If you want to become a good advocate, you must har nadi ka pani pijiye aap. Har nadi. You must practice in every forum in Bombay. You must be well acclimatized yourself with commercial law, matrimonial law, constitutional law, property law, samjhana A to Z law, securitization laws, criminal law, CPC, CRPC. Sab rakho and take up matters and all. Nowadays, taking up matters is easy for you. If nobody is briefing you, hell with them. You sit in the library and enroll in the legal aid committee. Fight 1 or 2, 3, 4 matters and do a proper job. You will be exposed. When I told you an example of myself, that is how I came to the High Court. I had no seniors, mentors who can give me work or solicitors briefing me. I began doing public interest matters free of charge from Bar Council and High Court. So exposure became very wide. I was attending to hundreds of clients. So everybody is watching the moment you make representation. Similarly, you should not be discouraged. So there is a lot of work available. There's so many legislation. So many courts are there. Take up matters. Even if solicitors, advocate, clients, or your family, people not briefing you, no problem, no regret. Bar Council, every court has got a free legal aid society. So be prepared to work free of charge. For a few months, few years, काम करेंगे. Work is too much. काम करने वाली की जरूरत है. We require good lawyers. There is a lot of work. There is no dearth of work. People who tell that the profession is overcrowded, I don't agree with them. There is window open. There is so much of work. And we don't have good lawyers. We don't have people coming forward to work. A lot of work. Please keep doing it. Keep accepting work and not to specialize in one branch. Do various branches.
Thank you, sir.
You must flirt with all the laws, not flirt with too many girls. All branches of law, you must be acclimatized. Yeah.
Yes, sir. But will any constitutional level cases to come to us even in the free aid?
Yes, everything. Many cases come to you. Police brutalities will come to you. Article 226 invoke karo. Mandamus. Municipal corporation not demolishing illegal structure. Invoke Article 226 for a mandamus. Some illegal act is done by tribunal. Go for certiorari. Somebody appointed illegally. Go for a quo warranto. You can do many things. Daily padhte hain ab. Even if a judge or a magistrate making some mistake, some crime kiya hai, go to the Lok Ayukta and take his permission and sue them. That is permissible. It is not that the judges are immune from prosecution. If you come to know a particular judge is corrupt, you have a right to prosecute him under the provisions of law. Only you require the sanction of the Lok Ayukta. You should know the provisions of 195, 196, 197, 198, 199 CRPC. Please note that. CRPC, even if you become a civil lawyer, don't forget your criminal law. Even if you become a criminal lawyer, don't forget your civil law. Everything you should know that. That is how you can do that. There the guidelines are laid down. Under 196, 197, You can prosecute judges. We can prosecute magistrate taking the permission of the Lok Ayukta. Isn't it? That is given there. CRPC खोलो आपको बता दो अभी. I will show you right now the provisions. (197) पे आ जाइए. You can prosecute even a public servant. A police officer dishonest, not doing a job. When any person who is or was a judge or a magistrate or a public servant not removable from his office, say by with the sanction of the government, is an accused of any offence allegedly have been committed by him while acting or purporting to act in the discharge of official duty, no court shall take cognizance of the offence except with the previous sanction, save otherwise provided in the Lokpal, Lok Ayukta Act. So there is a provision. Go to the Lok Ayukta. You can prosecute the public servant, police officer. Take the permission of the appointing authority, government of Maharashtra. You can sue them, even if a magistrate is corrupt and taking bribe, and don't leave him. Nobody is above the rule of law. Take the permission from the Lok Ayukta and sue him. So don't you, but you must know the provision. Your weapon, your armory is your knowledge of law. If you don't have the knowledge of law, you cannot do anything.
Okay? There won't be any repercussions, no, sir?
There is no repercussion, and people will respect you, salute you, provided you conduct the matter bona fidely and not with the ulterior motives. समझे ना आप? 22 हो गया, 23 पे आ जाइए अभी. 22A पे आ जाइए. When oral admission as to content of electronic records are relevant. This I had read it to you when I was reading the secondary evidence of electronic evidence. Oral admissions as to content of electronic record are not relevant unless genuineness of electronic record produced is in question. Okay, that we have dealt with the various cases we quoted earlier. Then see, this section is important, 23. Admissions in civil cases when relevant. In civil cases, no admission is relevant if it is made either upon the express condition that evidence of its not being so given under the circumstances from which the court can infer that the parties agree together that the evidence of it should not be given. So the example is here that during the pendency of a suit, both the parties agree to hold a meeting to settle the case. So there will be a meeting in the chamber of your plaintiff chamber or defendant chamber. So when the meeting mentioned immediately, this meeting is without prejudice to the rights and contention. Write a recording letter. Please note that whatever has been discussed in the present meeting for settlement should not be used in the court as evidence. This is without prejudice to the rights and contention. This is what to the parties. ये लिखेंगे तो civil cases के अंदर all discussion which are used cannot be used. Similarly, under the provisions of Arbitration Conciliation Act, the arbitrator send the matters to conciliation or mediation. Whatever report, if the mediation and conciliation fails, the report of the conciliation is not binding. It is not evidence. It is to be kept as a secret. So under the provisions of 23 के अंदर आएगा और it is hit by, it is no admission. This is a specific provision. So civil matter के अंदर, whenever as a young lawyer, when you are supposed to hold a meeting, other side will do tape recording over where you must have made it here. You make it clear that here, this meeting is strictly without prejudice to our rights and contention, and whatever discussed here is not to be used in evidence, even including tape recording. See to it that tape recording is not done. Tape recording करेंगे तो Supreme Court ने कहा ना that in Nagri's case and Malkani's case, illegally collected evidence can be used.
But if they secretly tape using new technology,
criminal cases may can be used, but in civil cases may, if you mention the word, it is without prejudice to rights and contention, it cannot be used. You can take objection. At the time of the meeting we had taken, I have written to a letter, it was mentioned clearly, the whatever discussion take place cannot be used in the court of law. Then section 23 will come into play. See the explanation. Nothing in the section shall be taken to exempt any barrister, pleader, attorney, or vakil from giving evidence of any manner of which he may have been compelled to give evidence under section 126. So 126 is a privileged communication between the client and the lawyer. So one topic I will take you maybe next week. Privileged communication. What documents cannot be produced? Communication between husband and wife. Communication between lawyer and government ke documents. Confidential documents can be produced or not. One topic will require. I'll produce it to you. Huh? So whatever client has given you evidence in a matter which is going on, you cannot disclose to other side. इसीलिए under the provisions of Order 1113, when you file the affidavit of document in the court of law, you mention Schedule 1 में document letters, Schedule B लिखते हैं all instructions given to lawyer, privileged communication, which I object to disclose. पढ़े ना CPC के अंदर? If I taught you clearly, it is there.
Yes, sir.
If you are not ready, that is there clear. But that is important here. Okay. Then now admission part we are winding up, and I would like to wind up today's lecture. And tomorrow I will take confession. Okay.
So can
Anybody
we?
has any question? This admission is clear. Admissions are both admissible in civil law, civil cases as well as in criminal cases. Whereas the confession which I am going to take from section 24 to 30 are only admissible in criminal cases. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tomorrow evening we can take. Tomorrow evening, you have
Sir.
any problem? All of you?
So we
No
have an
problem,
exam.
sir.
Sir, we have an exam.
Okay, we'll take day after tomorrow, Tuesday.
So we have an exam on 22nd, sir.
बताओ मेरे को कभी लेना है lecture.
So we can take one tomorrow, sir. Then next lecture we should take on 22nd only, sir.
Okay, tomorrow I can take confession. Okay, subject to the permission of everybody. Huh? You tell
Yes,
me.
sir. Tomorrow is no problem, sir.
Tomorrow evening I will take two lectures, maybe for 2 hours or 2 hours on confession and other connected section. I will try to wind up the Indian Evidence Act chapter because we are almost closing. Because relevant evidence till 56 है. I think more or less हमने पूरा cover किया earlier. Section 40, 41, 42 cover किया हमें. I will try and cover it. Don't worry. We are going at a faster rate. You will be able to understand. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank
sir.
you very much,
Then,
sir.
sir,
Thank you so much.
If you
all
finish,
of you.
sir, we can take a few lectures on arbitration, sir. You had said we'll
Okay, I
do.
will do that. Okay, I will do that. Let me
Thank you
first
so much, sir.
complete the evidence.
Yes.
Chalo, good night. See you tomorrow
Thank
evening.
you
Good
so
night,
much,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye bye. Good night. All
Thank you,
the
sir.
best. Thank you. Bye bye.